Hi, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Sparking Change, a podcast for prevention. Today, I have with me Yoshida from my committee, as well as Sarvesh and Michelle from Jada's Journey. So, we are just going to start off by asking Michelle what exactly inspired you to start the organization of Jada's Journey.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Um, so I decided to start the organization because unfortunately my daughter Jada passed away in June of 2021 after struggling for many years with addiction and mental health issues. The toxology, pardon me, report confirmed that Jada had cocaine in her system and it was laced with fentanyl, which you probably hear all about now on the news. It was in her system. Throughout her battle, I felt really helpless when I couldn't find resources or when health insurance capped off at certain amounts to support rehab and treatment programs. And the stigma and lack of assistance associated with both addiction and mental health is really disheartening. So I started it to honor Jada's memory and, of course, to kind of help me cope with my loss by giving other families going through this difficult journey financial assistance and resources. Unfortunately, the system is very broken, and Jada's Journey is working hard to be part of the solution. Jada's story is a bit different because she was adopted and her biological parents were heroin addicts. So unfortunately, she was predisposed genetically to it. So that's different than a lot of people. But that being said, it can happen to anyone. And fentanyl has changed society really globally. Fentanyl can be found in anything from weed and pills to harder drugs such as cocaine and heroin. That's why I started the foundation.
Thank you so much for sharing with us, Michelle. So I know you kind of touched on Jada's story, and we wanted to ask you what really is like the main mission of Jada's Journey. We understand the inspiration, but what exactly are you working towards as an organization?
Sure. So our mission is so basically to provide guidance and financial support to families who have children who suffer from addiction or mental illness and have exhausted all their financial resources for treatments and related programs, which honestly doesn't take much. It's very expensive. And insurance does cover something. If somebody has good insurance, it does cover a lot, but there is still a ton of out-of-pocket expenses. We are also striving to make an impact by providing educational resources to raise awareness of addiction and mental health issues in the community, enabling families to make connections through support groups. And I'm creating programs to speak at schools, youth groups, community organizations to share Jada's journey and address the stigma associated with addiction and mental illness.
So, what are some ways that Jada's Journey as an organization has worked to raise awareness about mental health and substance use?
Well, one thing I mentioned is I speak in the community and I'm a member of the Chamber of Commerce and speak at events. I also have been speaking at some women's groups in the community. I do speak at Stevenson. I've spoke in their health classes for the past few years, and I share Jada's journey then with the students. We were also chosen to be one of the organizations honored at Stevenson Street Fest, not this past year, but the year before. And we had a booth to make bracelets and keychains as part of like a mental health activity. And we were really grateful for that opportunity. And it really raised awareness about Jada's journey. Jada did, I don't know if I mentioned this already, but Jada did go to Stevenson. So that's why we started partnering with Stevenson to begin with.
Okay. How many members have joined the organization as of late?
So I believe we're about 15 for the youth, and then I have another 8 for my adult board. And then we have committee for different events. We also have people joining and volunteers for committees, but that's like the main members for the board and the directors.
Yeah, so you just mentioned the youth sector that you guys also have involved. So in terms of some of the work that you guys do, how does like the work that the adults versus the youth differ and kind of what's the purpose of each group?
Well, they're run very different. So I have a board of directors and we plan and execute all our events through the year and do a lot of behind the scenes with kind of researching different organizations for sponsorships. We do research on educational. We do research on the different treatment centers and resources that we want to provide. So there's a lot of behind the scenes that go into Jada's journey, as well as planning the events with vendors and the actual locations and then of course dealing with, and it's mostly me at this point, dealing with the where the money goes, what families we're helping and what organizations and treatment centers we are donating to. So that's more of the so-called grown-up board of directors. And then I can let Sarvesh talk a little bit about the youth board.
Yeah, so thank you, Michelle. But our youth board, our main job is kind of just to bring a different perspective than the adult kind of grown-up board. We participate in planning some of the events and the fundraisers, and we volunteer at those events. But the biggest thing is kind of just taking Jada's journey in a direction that has a lot more youth involvement, making sure that there's more and more students and kids involved, and they also get the message of spreading this awareness, and they also have the chance to be part of that movement as well.
Thank you for sharing. Based on your website, we noticed that you are a recently founded nonprofit organization. So what are some of the challenges that you've faced but have been able to overcome, especially recently? And what sort of advice do you have for any upcoming smaller organizations that are also focusing on promoting the message of substance use prevention?
I haven't had, the only struggles that I'm having is we have to, when you start an organization, you have to raise money. So really the first several years are all about fundraising because you can't do anything as far as your mission goes without money, unfortunately. So that's been our drive, and our mission at this point is just really getting the word out there so people know and know the name Jada's Journey. And that's important to me, of course, because I want her to have a legacy. And that's the whole point of me doing this. Fundraising and finding companies, since Jada's Journey is not a well-known name as an organization, I just have to continue the process of networking. And that would be my recommendation for any organization starting up, is you really need to join and show up and network. That's really, and that goes across the board really for anything, for students in general, once you're in the job market or any kind of organization that you're in, networking is really a huge, very important. And looking at the different companies and finding who the best contacts are takes a lot of time. It's really time consuming, but it will be beneficial in the long run.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that, on the networking aspect. And so about Jada's journey, what are the future plans and how do you see this like in 2 or 3 years maybe?
So, so far, accomplishments we've had are, we've had several fundraisers. This is going to be our third 5K coming up. We've had vendor fairs, just to name a few things, pickleball fundraisers, lots of restaurant events. And we are now working with Compass Health to provide financial assistance to families to help offset costs. So moving forward, we are going to continue to work with Compass, but then I'm hoping, depending on our funding, that we research and fund to help with other organizations and other treatment centers. At this point, we're concentrating on not the residential side of things because honestly, as a small organization, you need like $50,000 just in one check for a few days at a residential. So the amount of money that a small organization raises, like us, we can be much more of a help to families at outpatient facilities and treatment programs that are not residential. So we'll probably continue that for the next few years. And just kind of a side note, the future plan, like you mentioned, our annual 5K will be held at Half Day Forest Preserve in Lincolnshire on September 21st. And we are hoping to have a lot of student participation from Stevenson's clubs and teams. And within the next few years, our goal is to work hard to take this foundation to the next level. We are actively looking for private and company sponsors to increase our funding to help more families. And we are donating funds in Jada's name to provide art therapy programs and possibly dog therapy assistant programs, as well as what I mentioned before about helping the families with their costs and offsetting for the treatments. Working with the different facilities to provide resources, because I mentioned at the beginning of this talk that I had such difficulty finding resources when I was scrambling. And when you're in it and consumed in your child's care, it's so hard to think out of the box or figure out the resources because you're really just trying to take care of your child and you never know when the next shoe is going to drop. So helping families go through the process and navigate the system is something that I'm really striving to accomplish.
Thank you for sharing, Michelle. I kind of want to direct the similar type of question back to Sarvesh. Like Michelle kind of mentioned a lot of like in general overarching future plans, but what exactly do you see as the upcoming years of like the youth board and what their plans are?
Yeah, so I think the first thing that we're all kind of looking forward to is obviously just kind of expanding this youth board. Right now, we have a lot of directors in their own specific portion, and kind of hoping to mimic Catalyst's like successful committee system and almost have a committee-based structure for each of those separate aspects of Jada's journey. So that way we can get more hands on deck, kind of more effort, more perspectives, fresh views on things. So that's one way that I see things going in the future. If students are wanting to get involved with Jada's journey, there's an interest form actually, and they can always volunteer at any of the events that Michelle mentioned. And I think we kind of really foster that environment for them. So I think that's kind of another direction that we really have to emphasize in the upcoming years.
Thank you for sharing. So question for both of you, Sarvesh and Michelle, what has been one of the most rewarding aspects of the work that you've done, or something that has really stood out to you or that you've learned from this experience of working with substance use prevention?
A few things come to mind. One is connecting with so many people in the community and realizing, I guess, getting validation for what I'm doing, because you don't know what goes on behind closed doors. And let me tell you, everyone has a story. And the amount of people that are just affected by somebody that they know or in their family or a friend of a friend, a coworker that has been affected by substance abuse or mental illness is remarkable. It's unbelievable, really. So at this point in time, unfortunately, and I do say this in the health classes, at some point, everyone's going to know somebody that has been affected at some point. And there needs to be much more awareness, less stigma, and more talking about it to navigate these difficult times with it. And again, with the resources and less stigma, we can help families, because when somebody is going through some sort of mental illness episode or substance abuse issues, it doesn't just affect them, it affects the whole family and their friends and really the community. So I think the more we talk about it and the more we become aware of, and with education, that's really the goal, is to just educate more people, and then we'll be able to change how we look at this in the community.
Yeah, I mean, kind of just building off of what Michelle just said, I think my biggest takeaway is just kind of that gratitude element. Like Michelle said, everyone has a story. You never know what's going on behind closed doors. And when you kind of just reach out and give that helping hand, you really get to see like how grateful some people are for that. Because a lot of people, they don't really express what may be going on behind the scenes. And you just being out there, you doing this and helping in this way, it's just really eye-opening, really gives you a sense of, oh, I'm actually part of something bigger than just myself. I think that's the biggest thing that comes to my mind.
Thank you. Yes. And the youth advisory board has been eye-opening for me too. And I'm so grateful for everyone that has stepped up and become part of this. I didn't know what I was doing going into this because of course I'm really just a mom and unfortunately became a grieving mom and wasn't really sure where this was going to take me, but I can see now this is bigger than what I ever imagined. And I think we have a lot of work to do, but I am grateful for where we are right now and for the people that have been volunteering and helping and just being a part of the solution, basically. And I will say on a side note, there's been people, which of course I won't name names, but now that I've done a bunch of health classes, there are people that have reached out that have shared their stories, have come to me for help. There's also people in the community that, I spoke at a women's luncheon. I wasn't really sure how that was going to go, but literally almost everyone in that room, because I did mention everyone's going to know somebody at some point that is going through this. Everyone was coming up to me afterwards, like literally everyone telling me their story. So when I was dealing with Jada's issues, I wasn't talking about it to people. I was, it was terrible. I felt like I was failing as a parent. And now I know that I wasn't alone. And it's very validating to know that all these people have been coming up and telling their stories to me. So we know that we do have to, there's a lot of work to be done. And again, I'm hoping that Jada's journey can at least be a small part of that solution.
Thank you so much, Michele and Sarvesh, for sharing perspectives on substance use prevention, especially through Jada's journey. We really appreciate you guys coming on to this podcast, and we just wanted to know if there's anything that you'd like to let our listeners know regarding your mission or your organization that they should definitely check out.
Yes, I'd love for you to put in the description our website and the information if they would like to be a volunteer or to join the organization.
Thank you. So that is it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening, and make sure to follow us on Instagram for more updates at catalyst_SHS or by clicking the link in our description. Also, make sure to check out the information on Jada's journey regarding their website and how to get involved. Thank you.